Champagne glass shattered against the marble floor. Every head turned, the music faltered. A woman in diamonds gasped and stepped back, her heel crunching through crystal shards, but it wasn't the broken glass that made the room freeze. It was the man who had dropped it. Ethan Blake sat motionless in his wheelchair, staring at his trembling hand as if it had betrayed him. "Someone get that cleaned up," a voice muttered from the crowd. And just like that, the party resumed. The laughter returned. The music swelled. People turned their backs and continued their conversations about stocks, yachts, and summer homes in the Hamptons. Ethan Blake, once the king of rooms like this, now sat alone in the corner like furniture no one wanted to acknowledge. The Grand Celestial Hotel ballroom was a cathedral of wealth. Golden chandeliers dripped from vaulted ceilings. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the glittering cityscape beyond. Men in custom tuxedos traded business cards, while women in gowns worth more than most people's cars posed for photographers. This was the annual Founders Gala, where the city's elite gathered to celebrate themselves under the guise of charity. 2 years ago, Ethan Blake had hosted this event. He had stood at the center of it all, commanding attention with his presence, his vision, his empire. Tech billionaire, philanthropist, the man who revolutionized sustainable energy and made his first billion before 30. Women had wanted him. Men had wanted to be him. Then came the accident. A drunk driver, a highway, a single moment that changed everything. He survived, but his legs didn't. Neither did his marriage. Neither did most of his so-called friends. Tonight was supposed to be his return. A statement, proof that Ethan Blake wasn't finished. But as he watched a waiter sweep up the broken glass without meeting his eyes, he wondered why he'd bothered coming at all. "Did you see him drop that?" A man whispered near the bar, loud enough to be heard. "Poor bastard can't even hold a drink steady." His companion, a woman with too much Botox and not enough kindness, replied, "I heard his wife left him 3 months after the accident. Took half his fortune too." "Can you blame her? What kind of life is that?" Ethan's jaw tightened. He'd heard worse. The internet had been merciless during his recovery. Memes about fallen kings, jokes about wheelchairs and wealth. Opinion pieces questioning whether he could still run his companies. His board had gently suggested he step back. His friends had gently stopped calling. He reached for his phone, ready to text his driver and leave when the ballroom doors opened again. She walked in like she'd stumbled into the wrong party. Maya Thompson wasn't wearing diamonds. Her emerald dress was elegant but simple, probably bought off the rack rather than custom designed. Her hair fell in natural curls around her shoulders. She carried herself with the easy grace of someone who didn't need to prove anything to anyone. While everyone else in the room was performing, she simply existed. She was there because her friend Carmen worked for the event planning company and had begged her to come. "I need at least one real person there," Carmen had said. "Everyone else is just walking wallets and fake smiles." Maya had agreed, expecting boredom. What she found instead was something that made her chest tighten. Across the vast ballroom, past the dancing couples and champagne fountains, she saw him. A man in a wheelchair, sitting alone in the shadows while the entire world celebrated around him. She watched as people's eyes slid past him, as conversations died when he wheeled closer, as space opened around him like he carried something contagious. She knew that look, the invisible isolation. She saw it every day at work. Maya was a social worker at Riverside Rehabilitation Center, specializing in trauma recovery. She spent her days with people learning to walk again, to live again, to believe they were still worthy of love after their bodies had been broken. She knew the statistics. 80% of marriages ended after catastrophic injury. 40% of patients reported losing all their friends within the first year. Depression rates were astronomical. But statistics didn't show the human cost. The way someone's eyes dimmed when their family stopped visiting. The forced smile when they claimed they were fine, while their hands shook with loneliness. This man, whoever he was, wore that same mask. "You okay?" Carmen appeared at her elbow with 2 glasses of wine. "Who's that?" Maya nodded toward the corner. Carmen followed her gaze and her eyes widened. "Oh my God, that's Ethan Blake, the Ethan Blake, reclusive billionaire. He basically vanished after his accident 2 years ago. This is the first time he's been seen in public since then. And everyone's ignoring him." "Well," Carmen shifted uncomfortably. "People don't know what to say, it's awkward, you know." Maya felt anger flash through her chest. It's only awkward because they're making it awkward. Before Carmen could respond, Maya handed back her wine glass and started walking. Maya, what are you doing? But Maya was already crossing the ballroom floor. She moved through clusters of guests, past the ice sculpture centerpiece, toward the man who looked like he was trying to disappear into the walls. Ethan saw her approaching and tensed. Here it comes, he thought, the pity smile, the overly cheerful "how are you doing?" said in that specific tone people used with the elderly and disabled. The awkward pat on the shoulder before a quick escape. But Maya didn't smile with pity. She smiled like she'd just found something interesting. You look like someone who forgot how to have fun, she said. Ethan blinked. Excuse me. This is supposed to be a party, but you're sitting here like you're waiting for a root canal. Despite himself, a laugh escaped his throat. Actual, genuine laughter. I guess I'm a little out of practice. Well, lucky for you, I'm an excellent teacher. She gestured to the dance floor where couples swayed to a jazz ensemble. Time for a refresher course. His smile faded. I don't think that's possible. Why not? You got somewhere else to be. I meant, he gestured to his wheelchair. I know what you meant. Maya's voice was gentle but firm. I'm asking anyway. She extended her hand. Would you dance with me? The words hung in the air between them. Around them, conversations stuttered to silence. Heads turned. A woman nearby muttered to her husband, "Is she serious?" Ethan stared at Maya's outstretched hand. His throat felt tight. You don't have to do this. I know. People are watching. Let them watch. They'll talk. They're already talking. Maya's hand remained steady. The question is, do you want to dance or not? Something cracked open in Ethan's chest, something that had been frozen for 2 years. He looked at her face, really looked. And saw no pity there, no performance, just genuine invitation. Slowly, he reached up and placed his hand in hers. The whispers exploded. Phones came out. A man near the bar said too loudly, "This is going to be a disaster." But Maya didn't flinch. She led him toward the dance floor, her hand warm and sure in his. The crowd parted reluctantly, creating a circle of space around them. The jazz band, sensing something significant, shifted into a slow, soulful melody. Maya began to move, not with the rigid structure of ballroom dancing but with fluid, natural grace. She swayed and turned, her steps circling his wheelchair as he rotated to follow her movement. He pushed his wheels in rhythm with the music, and she flowed around him like water, like wind, like she'd been doing this her whole life. It wasn't traditional, it wasn't what anyone expected, but it was dancing. Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Freedom. His arms moved, his body responded, his heart lifted. Maya's eyes never left his face, and in them he saw not the broken billionaire or the man in the wheelchair. He saw himself, just himself. She spun, her emerald dress catching the light, and he laughed. Actually laughed with joy. She grinned back at him, and together they created something beautiful from what everyone else had assumed was impossible. The music swelled. Maya's movements grew bolder, more playful. She took his hand and spun under it. She dipped and swayed. Ethan matched her, his wheelchair becoming part of the choreography rather than an obstacle. They moved like they'd been partners for years, reading each other's rhythm, trusting each other's lead. The whispers changed, the mockery faded. People stopped reaching for their phones to film and just watched, really watched. A woman in the front row felt tears prick her eyes, though she couldn't say why. A man who'd made a joke earlier about the wheelchair felt shame burn in his chest. The jazz singer, a veteran who'd seen everything, smiled as she sang because she recognized courage when she saw it. The song built to its crescendo. Maya executed one final turn, her dress spinning out around her, and Ethan caught her hand, pulling her close. For a moment they were still, breathing hard, eyes locked. Then the music ended. Silence. Maya stepped back and gave a small, playful curtsy. Ethan bowed his head in response, his eyes shining with something that looked suspiciously like tears. Then someone started clapping, a woman in the back row. Then another person joined, then another. Within seconds, the entire ballroom erupted into applause. People rose from their seats, standing, clapping, some whistling. The sound was thunderous. Ethan's breath caught. He looked around the room at hundreds of faces, no longer looking away, no longer pretending he wasn't there. For the first time since his accident, he didn't feel invisible. He didn't feel broken. He felt seen. Maya squeezed his hand once, then released it. "See, that wasn't so hard." "Thank you," he whispered, his voice rough with emotion. I don't even know your name. Maya Thompson. Ethan Blake. Nice to meet you, Ethan Blake. The applause finally faded, but the energy in the room had shifted. The host stepped toward them, beaming, ready to capitalize on the moment, but Ethan held up his hand, stopping him. He turned back to Maya. Can we talk somewhere quieter? She nodded. They found refuge on a balcony overlooking the city. The night air was cool, carrying away the heat of the ballroom. Below them, lights sparkled like earthbound stars. Music drifted through the open doors, but out here they could breathe. Ethan positioned his wheelchair near the railing. Maya leaned against the stone balustrade beside him. For a long moment neither spoke. No one's looked at me like that in a long time, Ethan finally said, his voice quiet. Like what? Like I'm still a person, not a tragedy, not a tax write-off, not a cautionary tale. He stared out at the city. Do you know what it's like, to go from being someone everyone wants to talk to someone everyone avoids? I used to walk into rooms and own them. Now I roll in and people suddenly remember they need to be somewhere else. Maya listened without interrupting. My wife left, my business partners suggested I step down, my friends, he laughed bitterly. I learned real fast who my real friends were, turns out I didn't have any. He looked down at his hands. The accident didn't just take my legs, it took my life. No, Maya said softly, it took your old life, that's different. Ethan turned to her, surprised. You're not the same person you were before, Maya continued. That's not a bad thing, it's just true. You can mourn who you were, but at some point you have to meet who you are now. And who am I now? I don't know, but you're not dead, you're not invisible. You're a man who still knows how to laugh when someone tells a bad joke, who still remembers how to dance when given the chance. She smiled. You're someone worth knowing. The people in there are just too shallow to realize it. You're not from this world, are you? God, no, I'm a social worker at a rehabilitation center. I help accident survivors learn to live again. Ethan felt his chest tighten. Then you see people like me every day. I see people who have been through hell and came out the other side. Some of them are still learning to walk. Some of them will never walk again, but all of them are more than their injuries. She turned to face him fully. You don't need fixing, Ethan, you just need reminding. Reminding of what? That you're still alive, that you still matter, that your story isn't over. Before Ethan could respond, the balcony doors burst open. The host of the gala, Gregory Winters, stepped out with a microphone and an opportunistic grin. There you are, ladies and gentlemen, he gestured to the crowd gathering behind him. Please join me in thanking our generous benefactor and tonight's guest of honor, Mr. Ethan Blake, whose foundation made this entire event possible. Maya's eyes went wide. She turned to Ethan. Wait, you're the host. He gave her a sheepish look, surprise. The crowd pressed forward, suddenly eager to shake his hand, to talk to him, to be seen with him. The same people who'd avoided him all night now couldn't get close enough. But Ethan raised his voice, cutting through the noise. No. The crowd stopped. I appreciate the recognition, Gregory, but no. You all had your chance to acknowledge me tonight. When I rolled in here alone, when I dropped a glass and sat there embarrassed, when I spent an hour watching you all pretend I didn't exist. His voice was steady, calm, devastating. Only one person in this entire ballroom saw me as human tonight. One. And it wasn't anyone with a trust fund or a stock portfolio. He turned to Maya. Thank you for reminding me that kindness still exists. That genuine human connection is worth more than all the wealth in this room combined. Maya felt her throat tighten with emotion. Around them, people had the decency to look ashamed. Ethan wheeled past the crowd, back into the ballroom and toward the exit. Maya followed, her heart pounding. In the elevator, they finally looked at each other and started laughing. Real, exhausted, slightly hysterical laughter. I can't believe you didn't tell me who you were, Maya said. Would it have mattered? She thought about it. No, but I might have been more nervous about stepping on your expensive shoes. I'm not wearing any shoes. They laughed again, and something warm and real settled between them. 3 weeks later, Maya was doing paperwork at Riverside Rehabilitation Center when Carmen called her, screaming. Have you seen the internet? You're everywhere, the dance. Someone filmed it and it went viral. There are articles, think pieces, memes, good memes. Everyone's calling you the woman who reminded a billionaire he was human. Maya pulled up her computer and stared. Carmen wasn't exaggerating. The video had 40 million views. Comments flooded in from around the world, people sharing their own stories of invisible loneliness, of being seen again, of kindness changing everything. She closed the laptop, overwhelmed. That afternoon, her supervisor called her into the office. "Maya, we've received a substantial donation, anonymous, enough to build a new wing." Maya's breath caught. They specified it should include a recreational space, complete with a dance floor accessible to all mobility devices. Maya knew, somehow she knew. The new wing opened 2 months later. Patients wheeled through bright, spacious hallways. Therapists used state-of-the-art equipment. Families gathered in comfortable waiting rooms that didn't feel like hospitals. And in the center of it all, a beautiful hardwood dance floor. Maya stood at the edge of it, running her hand along the smooth railing, when she heard the familiar sound of wheels on wood. "I thought we could use a proper dance floor," Ethan said, rolling up beside her, "for when people forget how to have fun." She turned, tears in her eyes. "You did this. You reminded me what matters. I wanted to pass that forward." Around them, patients and staff began gathering. Someone turned on music. A young man in a wheelchair, newly paralyzed from a motorcycle accident, rolled onto the floor. His therapist took his hand and began to dance with him the way Maya had danced with Ethan. Others joined. Walkers and canes and wheelchairs and able bodies moving together, creating something beautiful from what the world had labeled broken. Ethan extended his hand to Maya. "May I have this dance, for real this time, without an audience judging us?" "We have an audience," Maya said, gesturing to the growing crowd. "I don't care, do you?" She smiled and took his hand, not even a little bit. They danced in the center of the floor, surrounded by hope and healing, and the sound of people choosing joy over limitation. Sunlight streamed through the windows. Music filled the air. And 2 people who'd found each other in a room full of strangers moved together like they'd been doing this forever. Because some dances aren't about steps or technique or perfection. Some dances are about choosing to move forward when the world expects you to sit still, about seeing another person's worth when everyone else looks away, about the quiet revolution of kindness in a world that's forgotten how powerful it can be. Maya rested her forehead against Ethan's, both of them smiling through tears. "Thank you," he whispered, "for seeing me. Thank you for reminding me why I do this work." Around them, the room filled with laughter and movement and life. The dance floor that Ethan built became more than a space. It became a statement, a declaration, proof that mobility isn't about how you move, but whether you choose to move at all. The woman who danced with a billionaire in a wheelchair had started something bigger than either of them realized. Not a movement exactly, not a campaign, just a reminder. That everyone deserves to be seen, that kindness is never wasted, that sometimes the smallest gesture becomes the turning point in someone's life. That love and compassion stand taller than any human ever could. If this story moved you, take a moment to hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs reminding that genuine human connection still matters. And don't forget to subscribe, because we believe in stories that celebrate the courage to be kind. Comment below and tell us about a time someone saw you when everyone else looked away. Your story matters, you matter. And together, we can build a world that dances with everyone, not just the ones who fit society's narrow definition of perfect.